Hi guys, Mrs. Miller here, and I am here at school grading your papers on the weekend, and I just have to stop and talk to you a little bit about what I'm seeing. There are two stacks of paper. If I were to divide these into two groups, I would have a group that really is having a conversation with me on the page, and I have a group who is just putting words down to try to fulfill an assignment. And I read what you write. I read your words, and when your words are confusing, when you're not writing in complete sentences, it becomes really difficult to navigate your thoughts, and I'm just not going to do it. So you want to understand that you don't have a lot that you have to write and turn into me, but what you do turn in needs to be quality work. So let's talk. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about strong writing. The first thing that I want to say is that you're not being asked to write a lot, okay? We're taking these study guides about one a week. That means that in the course of 1 week of class, you write 5 paragraphs. That is not a lot to write, okay? You may feel like it's pretty onerous for you, but it's really not. The other thing is you are using Bloom's taxonomy to develop questions that show your analysis of the text and that you can dig in with this text at a higher analytical level. Okay, so let's talk a little bit first about what makes strong writing. Number one, we write in complete sentences. Okay, pay attention to your directions. It said it right on there. And sentences have a subject and a verb. They have a complete thought. They have a capital letter, and they have an end punctuation. Capitalized names take time to make sure that you're spelling things correctly, and I'm notorious for being kind of lazy with that, but get your book out. Make sure you're spelling Odysseus and Telemachus correctly. I know it's all Greek to you, but make sure that you are taking the time to spell things right. We use proper punctuation, okay? A sentence has an end punctuation. Learn your comma rules if you've not already done that. We make arguments that have a claim and a warrant, and I'm especially seeing this with question 2, okay? Question 2 is identify a clear theme, a universal theme in the text. And a universal theme is something that's applicable today as much as it was 2,000 years ago. And what I'll see is things like the Greeks believe in the law of hospitality. Well, that's a fact, okay? That's not a claim. And in order to make it a claim, you need to add the therefore or the because. You need to put the warrant on it. And it needs to be more universal. So in the world today, if one lived by the law of hospitality, blah, 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 okay? We apply the concepts the teacher has taught. Now you have 2 sheets. You have this first sheet that is the elements of an epic, and there are 6 that are listed here, and then they are broken down more into detail. You need to be using the language of this handout in order to defend your position that this is indeed an epic poem. The second thing that we're looking at is we're looking at a literary lens called the feminist or the gender lens, and you need to use this handout. Read the handout, make sure you're familiar with it, make sure you understand, and if you don't, you ask me questions. That's what we're here for, okay? But you need to be applying the language of this handout to your writing so that I can see that you understand this, okay? We read and follow directions. We write in ink. We do not use first person. We're writing in formal language, so we avoid I, we, us, or you. And we do not use contractions. These are all things that we've been working on all year. And last year for those of you that were here in 8th grade. So we want to raise the level of the writing to formal language. Okay, now this is the Bloom's taxonomy verbs. Okay, you have this in your opening packet, and if you look, these are words that you can use. So and your goal is to be at the top half of this taxonomy. So you want to use in your sentences words like analyze, appraise, assemble, categorize, develop. So here are some samples. Contrast the role of women in today's family unit to that of Penelope and Helen. Rewrite the story from so-and-so's point of view. Predict how events might have changed if Odysseus had told the crew what was in the bag of winds. So lots of times your questions just all sound the same. Why did this happen? How did this happen? Those are lower level. Those are knowledge and comprehension questions down to bottom. So push yourself to go deeper with what you're asking of your audience. So bottom line, the question is my answer worth reading? You know, think about me on a Sunday afternoon sitting here reading your papers. Have you spent the time writing something that is worth a person on the other side reading and commenting on it? You guys are really smart kids, and you're able to handle this material. That's no question. But do you read your answers out loud to catch your own mistakes? Do you go back in and edit them, or is it just a one and done kind of thing? And when you know that somebody's going to be on the other side of this reading it, you really want to take the time to write it and then come back to it and revise, and maybe even have somebody else read it for you. Have a parent or an older sibling or a friend read through it and say, does it make sense? Put a question mark if I need to explain something more. Put a question mark if I need to, or a piece of evidence, EV for evidence, if I need to defend something. Put define if I need to define a term. Have somebody else read it before you give it to me for that evaluation process. I love being your teacher, but there are a lot of you that can kick this up a notch or 2 or 4. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. Now, the first question that somebody will ask me is, should I redo this? And the answer is no. Because as we move forward, we come back to the same questions. So just because you got a 1.5 or a 2 on this particular assignment, as long as you're getting 3s and 3.5s and 4s going forward, that's the score that you'll get. All right. Bye-bye.